Marvel's next big theatrical release, The Fantastic Four First Steps, is set to come out next month. And according to this article I got pulled up right here from that Park Place, things are not looking too good for it, or at least they still have some work cut out ahead of them before the film is finally released. Recent Fantastic Four test screenings reportedly mid, with CGI incomplete and character work lacking. Marvel Studios may have a problem on its hands. According to multiple sources, the most recent test screenings of the Fantastic Four First Steps were held earlier this week in Los Angeles, and the reactions are mixed, though it's still in the post-production phase. Initial viewer feedback suggests the reboot might not be the triumphant return for Marvel's first family that Kevin Feige was hoping for. Now, before we really dive into this, I just want to mention that I've mentioned it on this channel before, but in case you haven't heard me say it, test screenings you have to kind of take with a pinch of salt, because not only by their very nature, these are just rumors coming out about them that you can't verify, but also a test screening isn't necessarily a complete movie. Oftentimes a studio might be debating amongst themselves whether to include a certain element in a movie or not. So they figure like, okay, well, we got a test screening scheduled. Let's include it in this version of the test screening and see how audiences take to it. If they don't like it, then it kind of confirms what we thought and we can take it out. But if they like it, then I guess we should probably put it in after all. But if they don't like it and you just hear about reports coming out of that particular test screening, then that can kind of almost lead you to believe that the movie is overall going to be bad, and that's not necessarily the case, because that is the whole point of a test screening, is to test certain aspects of it. But it is fair to say if a test screening goes over pretty well, then that's a good sign for the movie. But just because it goes badly doesn't necessarily mean the final result is also going to be bad. Industry scooper Jeff Snyder of The Insider shared details from a source who attended the screening, describing the film as mid and meh, clarifying that it was not that bad, but not that good either. Perhaps more concerning are criticisms about weak character development and bad CGI, the latter of which, Snyder notes, should improve in the coming weeks as visual effects are finalized. And that's another thing when it comes to test screenings is, especially for big effects heavy movies like this, the visual effects are not necessarily going to be complete for it. They're working on that ahead of time. I mean, sometimes, those like cheap CGI previs that they do for movies just to kind of show the animators like this is what we're going for and other things like that. A lot of times those will actually be in the test screenings themselves, and you kind of have to use your imagination. Sometimes it literally is just a screen with text on it that says this is what's happening at this point. I mean, so they're very down and dirty, rough edits of the movie that they have to test in front of audiences because they're working on them almost up until the point where the movie is released. So when you hear about the effects not being good on it, I mean, that's like the least of my concern when it comes to this sort of thing. Other things like bad character development, or what was it saying, talking about in May, not bad, not good either. Weak character development and bad CGI. So weak character development, that's I think the most concerning part about this coming out about the test screenings, because even though some of that stuff can be fixed through editing and other things like that, if the base of everything, if the script is not necessarily that great, there's only so much that you can actually do for the editing in order to try to bring that out. So they'll do what they can in the meantime, maybe try to even do some pickup shots and other little shoots in order to try to fill in the gaps where they have them, but they're coming up on their deadline. So there's really not a whole lot they can do. If the character development and other stuff like that is just super bad, well, then that's kind of what the final result of the movie is probably going to be at this late stage in the game. In general, Marvel doesn't do public test screenings unless they're worried, Snyder wrote. That was the case with Eternals, The Marvels, Quantumania, and Brave New World, while Snyder initially reported that Marvel was high on the project internally. Another unnamed source reportedly described the film as a mess and a huge problem movie, echoing language that was once used to describe the Marvels before its disastrous release. And something else to consider when it comes to recent Marvel releases, them struggling at the box office. Thunderbolts famously actually had pretty positive test screening for that movie. And then when the film finally did come out, yeah, audiences enjoyed it well enough, and it had pretty decent audience scores on sites like Rotten Tomatoes. But still, that wasn't enough for the movie to actually make money, because the public just really didn't seem to be interested in watching a Thunderbolts movie. Now, Fantastic Four is a more popular franchise, so with more recognizable characters, so maybe that will be enough to bring audiences in. We just don't know at this stage in the game, though. One thing is for sure, though, with Marvel struggling at the box office these last several years, with the only thing that's really been able to make money for them would be like Deadpool and Wolverine. And even then, a lot of that had to deal with the fact that it wasn't necessarily Marvel producing it. I mean, they produced it, but it was still kind of very much seen as a Fox movie. And it was kind of riding the coattails of the Fox Deadpool movies and the Fox X-Men movies. And it felt like it was something disconnected from everything else Marvel related that they've been putting out recently. This one is still hanging on to that. And one of the things when it comes to Marvel movies is that their next big release that's announced after this one is Avengers Doomsday, which I don't necessarily buy it, but they're saying that there's some reports going around saying that it needs to make $2 billion globally in order to just turn a profit for that one because of how much they spent on the actors and other things like that. They're trying to make it bigger than Avengers Endgame. And if Fantastic Four is just a meh movie, not a great movie, a meh movie, then that's not really good to go into their next movie. And that's kind of their track record, is just a string of bombs. And at best that they're just described as being okay and nothing great. Because one of the things about this movie is it doesn't just need to be a decent movie. It needs to be a fantastic movie, well received. Like we saw with Thunderbolts, that was well received, but it wasn't good enough to drive people out to audiences. This is something that needs to be not only fantastic to get enough people to come into theaters to support it, but also just to kind of get people to want to watch this movie over other movies that are going to be coming out in July, like Jurassic World's coming out. Then we got Superman coming out, all those around the same time. So this is going to be a pretty big deal in July to see what movie ultimately comes out on top. So with all the competition for this one, they need to do something in order to try to convince people to see this movie over those other ones right there. And if you're just saying that the reaction to it from people who saw test screenings was that the movie is just okay, then maybe that's not enough for them to actually sell enough tickets in order to turn a profit on this particular movie. Not all reactions were negative. However, Snyder did say that Ralph Ineson's portrayal of Galactus seemed to go over well with audiences. And I thought that was actually good casting for the character of Galactus. Calling that a promising sign, the appearance of Galactus apparently lifts the film in its later half, a sentiment echoed by well-known test screener insider Viewer Anon. Viewer Anon described the overall response as okay, but not a big sample size, adding that a couple of people have said the first act's shaky, but it gets better once Galactus shows up. They also noted that the version screen was very unfinished with only about 25% of the VFX completed, something that could certainly skew audiences' reactions. Now, this isn't to say that that's the only VFX that are completed at this time, because if they just have like a month in order to try to complete 75% of the VFX, that would be ridiculous. So there are probably other stuff that are completed that just wasn't included in this particular test screening of it, because they're not going to scramble to try to compile all that together just for a test screening. They'll just be like, well, okay, what's good enough? What's the bare minimum? Maybe even give their people time to put more polish on some of the stuff that's already completed. So just because it says 25% of it was done doesn't necessarily mean that they still have all that other stuff to do from scratch. I'm sure they're still working on it this time. I guess we'll just have to wait and see when the movie finally comes out. How do people respond to it? Like I said, they're talking about characterization and other stuff like that with the plot is the weakest element to it. And maybe they could actually fix that through some edits and other things like that. Because right now, we've heard up until like a couple weeks ago, they were doing some reshoots on it. I don't know if they're going to continue to do any reshoots or what have you when it comes to this sort of thing. But I think what they have right now in the can is probably what they're going to get. So they have to just try to figure out how to make it work with editing, with the script that they have. And if they can't make it work, and I think the final result is going to be something that, like the people are saying, it's just kind of a mid movie, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you are following a string of flops, and this is supposed to be the lead into your major team up movie, Avengers Doomsday, then you need to build up some hype around it. And it doesn't look like this movie is going to be doing that. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, Make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.